Yeah, that's some real shit. You had so many records that were controversial. Did you ever like feel any pressure from like outside entities when you were touring? Because obviously you were kind of like one of the few people, I would say pre you, because I kind of attribute like YouTube to helping with a lot of people's education on certain situations because it's free and it's readily available, right? And I feel like when you first kind of came on the scene, that wasn't necessarily the case. Did you get any blowback from like the government, or did you ever have like a target on your back in terms of like just some of the things you were talking about, especially to the youth post 9/11? You know what I mean?
I've had several incidents where police have come to my house, Homeland Security. I didn't become a citizen until I was 17, so they brought an ICE officer with them as if that was supposed to intimidate me.
Right.
But an individual such as myself is lawyered up the wazoo.
Yeah,
I learned
as you
that a
should
long
be.
time
Yeah.
ago. Like, listen, I can't fight the system by shooting back at them. That's what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, unless I'm ready to go full Chris Dorner,
Right.
Rest in peace. But if I am sitting there trying to get my point across and I don't want to be censored or I don't want people to control that aspect of the music, then sure, I have to take those precautionary measures ahead of time of whatever I do. I think being mature enough to look back as a kid and know, hey man, these are some of the mistakes I made. These are things I could have done better. There are things I would have done differently now. Like honestly, I'm doing it 100% alone now. I'm even more independent than I was before. Everything is now Rebel Army Records and just straight Immortal technique. And then I built a 501c3 that we modeled after the Black Panther Breakfast Party program to be part and linked to that label. It's called Rebel Army Runs, and you can find us.
That's a charity, right?
Yeah.
501c3, just for people who don't know.
Yeah, it's a charity. You can find us on the internet at Rebel Army Runs. And basically, you remember the projects you were talking about? We've been to just about every project in Manhattan, and now we're expanding to Brooklyn, where we give away a 2-week food pack to the seniors through that through their community centers and through that NYCHA housing programs directly. And I just want to point out to people that didn't know that in New York City, right, during the pandemic, they canceled 14 food programs for people. They couldn't afford to feed those people. And we actually became the functional food program for the Dykeman houses, for the Grant houses, which were serviced this morning by my team when I wasn't there. You can see the posts right now. Big shout out to my brother Thanos and the little Dominican shorty Gene that came and took my place because I do it myself when I'm not doing a series of other things.
Wow.
So it's been a joy to be able to do that. And we're proud to say that all donations are now tax deductible because of our 501c3 status, and we've passed the mark where we fed over 10,000 families. And when I say a 2-week food pack, I mean we give them like 4 cases of tuna. Then we have a 2-week oatmeal pack. We have canned milk. We have raviolis. We give them like tomato paste. We give them pasta, and then we like to have soups in there, and then we give away Ensure for the elders, and we have also Pedialyte and Pampers.
Wow.
And they have feminine products as well. So I always tell people, revolution isn't sexy. You know what I mean? It's not just about having a beret and running around the jungle with a gun. You got to get your hands dirty and help people, and it's not always easy, you know?
Well, I think too, like I think that's important to point out because so many artists that I grew up listening to around that same era, who I guess were probably perceived as conscious rappers. And I don't know if I consider you a conscious rapper as much as like a reality art. But you know, back in that day, there was like the conscious rap thing. And a lot of those guys didn't put their money where their mouth was, I guess. You know what I mean? In terms of like it's dope to see 20 years later, you're just fighting the good fight, man. Like fighting the fight for your people.
I can't speak to other people, but what I can say is this. I could say that because my life was personally affected by these things, I wanted to contribute back. Like, for example, for the people that don't know, I got locked up when I was a kid. I spent my 21st birthday being incarcerated in the hole. And when I got out, I thought one of the things that I could do is teach at a school. And what we did is myself and a young lady named Carmen Perez, I met the great Harry Belafonte. Shout to
Wow.
Harry Belafonte. And he said, you have such a way with words. Would you consider being a teacher in one of these school programs? So Harry Belafonte gave me my first teaching job, and I taught at a school called Horizons. So it was interesting because at the time, I was still kind of touring this album called The Martyr, which did great, like 4 million downloads, everything was wonderful. We toured
Right.
the world. But after like the tours were over, I had the really kind of painful but joyful reality of bringing this workshop, which was called Confronting Trauma Through Writing, to the kids. And the stories that they wrote were not just uplifting, but they were also heartbreaking.
I can imagine.
Sometimes you feel like you need a shower afterwards because
Yeah.
you realize how much suffering these kids have been through.